In a prior video, we reviewed this 22-piece Husky ratchet, extension, adapter, and U-joint set. My comments back then dealt with the look and feel of the tools. They looked like they had been used prior to my getting, meaning that the chrome wasn't polished, and that was kind of disappointing for a set that is 144 tooth on each of the ratchet heads and has a quality feel to it. And while we're not here to review this set again, you can link to it on screen or in the description. Today, thanks to the Home Depot Seeds program, what we're here to review is the 70-piece Husky socket set. This set includes 2 ratchets, extensions, a bit driver, hex both in metric and standard, some deep socket sets, and some standard sets, again, metric and standard, along with 10 bits to go with your driver. One of the first things I noticed was the finish, or I should say the lack of finish. Again, it looks like somebody used all the tools before they were shipped out to me. You know, all the sockets look like they're scratched or have blemishes on them. And this is a brand new set. This is just how it came out of the box. Again, a little disappointing, and maybe I shouldn't be so disappointed because it's not a very expensive set, but it does come with a lifetime warranty, meaning that once you buy this set, you shouldn't ever have to buy another one because you can just simply take it in and get any parts replaced that go bad. Enough complaining about the aesthetic look, since you're going to get them all scratched when you use them anyway. Ratchet, 8-inch, 5-inch, 72 tooth per ratchet head, which gives you about 5 degrees before it engages versus 2.5 on the 144. The tools are pretty okay to come out. It's a smooth feel, not very precise, just smooth. It's flat, low profile head. It has the standard bearing, so you press to quick release. I'm not a fan of the Husky press down. I always like the button being on top. Of course, the disadvantage of the button protruding is that sometimes if you're working in a tight area, it might push the button down for you and release your socket. But I just find that my thumb especially just kind of gets in the way of fully depressing to engage and disengage. But, you know, everybody has to decide whether that works for them. It does give you a lower profile with the button being flushed. The reverse is also flush. And the problem I had with the prior set was that on the smaller ratchet, this was hard to find with my thumb. But this one, it slides a little bit. If you have oil, which this is already oiled, it could easily slide off. So it's not a very good grip. I would actually prefer just a little bit more height on this switch. But again, standard bearing, release, is surface mounted. At 5 inches, it's rather small, so you're not going to get a lot of torque. But again, this isn't a very expensive set. You get only one extension for the 3/8. The ball bearing on the ratchet ensures that when you go to engage your socket, that it won't go on until you push the release button, at which point you cannot pull it off. So it serves as a safety feature to ensure that the socket is in position and it's not going to come loose on you. The bit driver and bit set, some people consider this just filler for a socket set. Really, you know, when you say you want a socket set, you expect some ratchets and sockets. We have 10 items here and another 7 here with the hex, another 7 here with the standard hex. This is metric. And so you're up to 24 on the count, 25 with the driver. that has nothing to do with sockets. So some people complain that that just brings up the count. So yes, it's a 70-piece set, but it's not 70 pieces of sockets. Still, I do like that the sockets are engraved with the size. It's also marked on the EVA foam, which is great because you can take this foam, drop it into your tool drawer and you're set, or if you just want to transport this around, it makes it easy to know that, hey, I'm missing my 11mm socket. The included 5-sided grip handle for the driver is a bit different than what we might be used to, but in the hand, it doesn't feel all that bad. It's just big, so I imagine I can apply a little bit more torque. There is some rubber coating within the white borders, though it feels very thin. It's not deep and cushy. It's just maybe just enough to give you a grip if things get a little oily. I'm a little concerned that it may start to degrade and peel off because it does feel kind of thin, but you can see the seam. They didn't do much with the flashing, especially there. So you may want to smooth that out if you're the kind that has sensitive hands and that kind of thing bothers you. But it should give you the ability at least to drive any of these bits. And of course, if it fails, it comes with a lifetime warranty. And while the driver has a magnetic tip to it, which is nice, you could attach these bits to a 1/4 socket, but unfortunately it's not magnetic, so it doesn't hold. A slight shortcoming of the kit. It would have been nice if they would have thrown a magnet in here, or at least included a socket specifically to work with these bits, because you definitely can get a little bit more torque than you can with this handle. Should you want, the bid set is removable from the case, and you just drop it back in when you're done. Nice to have a foam case where you instantly can tell if you're missing any of your tools, because everything has its place. My mother would have loved this, just because we never put anything back where we found it. Here we see the engraved markings for the size for each of the sockets. These are 6-point contact, thin-walled, but again, for their intended purpose, they're absolutely fine. So what's the purpose of a typical socket set? Really, just removing and fastening nuts and bolts. That's what it's really good for. And if you have extensions, that'll extend your reach into places. And depending on how many teeth are in the head, 72, 144, that determines how much of a turn you have to make before it engages. You can actually turn a fastener. Even in a modern car like this electric vehicle, sockets can come in handy. For example, this battery clamp is a little loose, and with a socket, you simply give it a twist and it's tightened down, and now the battery's once again secure. Depending on where you want to reach, sometimes you'll need more than just the simple extension this set comes with, or you may need U-joints so that you can turn around, or even different extensions that allow you to wiggle around an area. When ratcheting and reversing, there isn't a dead zone. It'll just move over if you leave it in the middle, and it catches, which is nice. But you see that marking, that semicircular marking there? That's the same thing I noticed with the previous socket set that I reviewed, is that the tolerance is just slightly off, so you end up scratching that finish. Again, it's a cosmetic thing, but you know, your tools represent how you take care of things, and it's a shame that these, you know, I haven't even put this tool yet to work, and already I have scratch marks on it. I do like the fact that there is no dead zone here. The 72 tooth is nice. 144 would have been nicer, but this is plenty good for most of us. And again, you press all the way in to release, and you got to press to re-engage. Looking inside the sockets, the finish varies from socket to socket. This one has a roughness to it, whereas this one is more polished on the inside. Again, it's an appearance thing, but it's also, you know, the amount of time that they spent and maybe the quality of time they spend making these tools look good and, you know, built to certain specifications. So if you skimp a little bit on the cosmetics, maybe you skimp also on other things. Again, probably for this intended purpose, I think this is like a beginner's. This is going to be fine, and I wouldn't lose sleep over this. But for other people, it's a big point, so I thought I'd just mention it. It seems that with every ratchet set I get, somebody throws in a metric or standard hex set, and I have lots of these laying around. I seldom need them, don't want to get any more, but they keep on coming with these kits. Probably because this is more of, I think, a basic kit. You get 2 drivers, they'll get the basics down. You get a bit driver and 10 different bits to go with it, which is a nice way of rounding a set. Though, if I strictly wanted sockets, that's all I'd want, is just to add sockets to my set, not to pick up more hex and more drivers and bits. But the nice thing is that for a starter kit, it does include it, and there are times where you need this. You get some Phillips, flat blades, some Torx, and some hex. Overall, I like this kit. Again, I wish it didn't include the hex and the bit drivers and the bits, but I get it. It's kind of a starter set, so they toss that in. It brings up the count a little bit more. Instead of these, I would just preferred more sockets. They do seem to cover the ranges. You know, we go up from 10 through 19. There are no skips. There's a skip here, but we make it up over on this side with the standard size as opposed to the deep. But, you know, we could have gotten rid of this and this and maybe just thrown in a 9. Overall, a nice beginner set. It's not polished. I got to move on. Good size. The grip is good. The feel of the ratchet is good. It could use another extension, but as you decide on what your abilities are and what you want to tackle, you may want to add additional extensions, adapters, and U-joints and build this set up. But for a moderately priced set, it's not bad. If you found this video interesting or useful, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment. And as always, join the subscription team so I can say thank you very much for supporting us.